Stop what you're doing. Yes, stop. Because what Kandi Burruss just uncovered isn't just shocking, it's the kind of revelation that makes you question everything you thought you knew about reality TV. Marriages and loyalty. Can a marriage really survive when whispers of secret contracts, hidden deals, and behind-the-scenes manipulations come to light? And what if one of the most beloved stars of your favorite show suddenly becomes the center of a storm that feels more like corporate espionage than a reality series? Sources anonymous, of course, are claiming that Kandi stumbled upon something so explosive, so mind-bending. It could rewrite the entire narrative of Todd Tucker and Porsha Williams' relationship. And fans, they thought they were just watching petty shade and scripted drama, but this is bigger. This is strategic. This is a revelation that doesn't just crack hearts, it fractures reputations. So, what did Kandi see? Why did her world implode in silence before erupting into a confrontation that has social media buzzing nonstop? And most importantly, what does this mean for the people who thought they were safe in their seats, watching drama unfold like innocent entertainment? Buckle up, because the truth, what little of it is visible, is about to get messy, shocking, and dangerously irresistible. The moment Kandi Burruss glimpsed what insiders are calling the hidden agreement, the world she thought she knew shattered. Sources close to her describe an immediate shift to silence, so heavy it felt like the room itself was holding its breath. This wasn't ordinary reality TV drama. This wasn't a petty shade or a scripted argument edited to look more chaotic than it was. No, this was something else entirely. Something that whispered of strategy, manipulation, and long-buried arrangements between Todd Tucker and Porsha Williams, hidden in plain sight. People around Kandi noticed the change instantly. Her laughter, once light and inviting, disappeared. Her smiles turned tight. The usual sparkle in her eyes dulled, replaced by a calculating calm that made anyone watching sense. This was a woman processing a betrayal so meticulous, so structured, that ordinary heartbreak wouldn't even come close to describing it. For years, the audience had been fed a steady diet of drama arguments that seemed spontaneous, romantic gestures that felt scripted, alliances and rivalries presented as entertainment. But what Kandi allegedly found didn't just rewrite episodes, it rewrote reality itself. Imagine believing your marriage, your life, your closest bonds were built on emotion and trust, only to discover parts of it may have been orchestrated behind the scenes. The sources say it wasn't a legal filing, not a document you could take to court, but a private contract, more like a blueprint of behavior and expectation, a structure laid down with precision. It allegedly dictated interactions, appearances, and even hidden favor exchanges that no camera lens had ever captured. And when that realization hit, Kandi went quiet. Witnesses say she didn't scream, she didn't cry, she didn't act out for the cameras. She processed, and silence, in this case, was louder than any shout. It didn't take long for the whispers to reach production crews, cast members, and social media. Fans initially shrugged it off. Just another season, they said, just another feud. But those who have been following this saga closely noticed the subtle shifts, the way Todd avoided certain rooms, the way Porsha's body language changed when cameras lingered too long. The awkward pauses that didn't seem accidental. Even casual observers began to sense a tension that was more than scripted. It's like watching a chess game in slow motion, said one anonymous crew member who has been on set for years. Every move feels deliberate. Every glance carries meaning. And if you know what to look for, you can see it building before it explodes. When Kandi finally broke her silence, it wasn't with tears, it wasn't a dramatic confession, it was fire. She spoke with the precision of someone dismantling a story piece by piece, calling out inconsistencies, shifting narratives, and unspoken deals. Friends who witnessed her confrontation describe it as methodical. She wasn't angry in the conventional sense. She was meticulous. Each word felt like a scalpel cutting through layers of half-truths and edited footage. And what made it all the more compelling was that Kandi had proof: screenshots, Messages, evidence that didn't need a stamp of approval, signatures, or courtroom validation. In the world of celebrity drama, that's more powerful than any legal document. Public reaction was instantaneous. Social media exploded, dissecting every clip, every facial expression, every carefully chosen word. Memes circulated faster than official statements could be issued. Fans split into factions, some convinced Kandi was exposing a genuine betrayal, others claiming it was orchestrated for ratings, yet the patterns were hard to ignore: travel overlaps, unexpected absences, edited sequences, and timing inconsistencies that had once seemed minor suddenly looked like puzzle pieces falling into place. The deeper observers dug, the more they found: late-night interactions, off-camera conversations, unexplained gifts, and sudden disappearances all contributed to a theory that this scandal wasn't spontaneous. It was structured. The emotional weight on Kandi was compounded by professional implications. People who had once supported her appeared to vanish quietly. Opportunities she could have counted on slipped away. And those closest to the unfolding storm whispered one word repeatedly: positioning. Every move, every conversation, every public appearance became a signal, not just of personal emotion, but of operational maneuvering. If you were looking for tears, you wouldn't find them, but if you were looking for strategy, for someone carefully managing a collapse while keeping composure, Kandi was already 10 steps ahead. Meanwhile, Todd and Porsha Williams' public interactions told a different story. Edited clips showed playful smiles, lighthearted gestures, and interactions that appeared innocent on the surface, but for those following the story carefully, the subtleties were screaming. Avoided eye contact, overly rehearsed laughter, and micro-expressions betrayed discomfort beneath the polished veneer. Experts in body language online began creating breakdowns, highlighting these moments frame by frame. Fans weren't just consuming content anymore, they were analyzing, cross-referencing, connecting dots that reality TV editors would rather leave blurry. The alleged contractor, whatever shape it truly took, seemed to suggest a level of planning most viewers didn't expect from personal relationships. Messages hinted at prearranged behaviors, orchestrated appearances, and hidden compromises. And while no signed document had surfaced publicly, the combination of texts, timing, and behavioral patterns created a narrative difficult to dismiss. People online began comparing past seasons, noticing that interactions previously interpreted as playful or coincidental now seemed deliberate. The audience started to wonder, had Kandi been navigating a relationship mapped out long before she ever suspected? Kandi's response, calculated and precise, only intensified the intrigue. She didn't publicly denounce anyone. She didn't issue a statement that could be turned into a headline. She moved in silence, letting the evidence speak. Sources say she spent hours reviewing messages, clips, and timelines, constructing a narrative that would not only defend her, but also expose contradictions without needing to rely on dramatic outbursts. To the casual observer, it might have looked like withdrawal, but insiders stress that this was strategy, not retreat. The fallout began almost immediately. Supporters who had once been vocal went quiet, and social media chatter shifted from speculation to investigation. Every past episode, every offhand remark, every camera angle was scrutinized. People started tracing back months, even years, looking for patterns. Why did certain trips align with specific filming days? Why did some conversations suddenly feel rehearsed? Why did Todd and Porsha appear unusually close in edited clips while Kandi's reactions seemed measured, almost clinical? Fans were piecing together a puzzle that had been carefully edited to disguise the full picture. Behind the scenes, sources indicate tension escalated. Crew members reportedly felt uncomfortable, noticing that Kandi's focus was no longer on performance or ratings, it was on clarity, control, and exposure. She wasn't reacting, she was observing. And in this world, observation is power. Every smile she didn't give, every comment she withheld, every calculated pause became ammunition. The drama, once considered casual entertainment, now felt like a slowly unraveling empire, and Kandi was at the center of it, fully aware of the stakes. Observers also began analyzing shifts in public perception. Todd's statements became shorter, less expressive, and more guarded. Porsha's interviews, previously polished but carefree, were now noticeably cautious. Fans noted subtle changes, slight hesitations, micro-expressions, and a careful curation of words. The narrative was no longer controlled by producers alone. Kandi's silent positioning, her strategic choices, and her careful revelation of evidence had tilted the power dynamics. What viewers saw on screen was no longer purely entertainment, it was a realignment of relationships, influence, and public perception. And then there were the messages. Screenshots allegedly released by Kandi added fuel to the speculation fire. These weren't formal contracts, but they carried implications, confirmations, and references that seemed to validate the whispers. Social media commentators pored over them, connecting phrases to past events, observing timing patterns, and predicting outcomes. It wasn't just the content of the messages. It was the way they were delivered, the gaps between them, and the reactions they triggered that made everything explosive. Fans began rewatching old footage, spotting moments that had previously gone unnoticed. Pauses that seemed natural now appeared deliberate. Jokes that were once funny now felt loaded. Conversations that seemed spontaneous now appeared rehearsed. And slowly, the public began to recognize a chilling truth. This was more than just betrayal. This was structured, strategic, and systematic. Kandi's emotional poise in the midst of chaos only underscored the sophistication of what had allegedly been set in motion by Todd and Porsha as the first wave of speculation hit. Commentators, bloggers, and entertainment insiders began theorizing about motivations, influence, and potential consequences. Was this about emotion, or was it about operational control? Was Kandi's calm a sign of shock, or a calculated maneuver to reclaim narrative authority? Fans were no longer watching for drama, they were watching for control, for strategy, for the moment when the carefully hidden blueprint would start to reveal itself. By now, Kandi's withdrawal from public commentary was no longer interpreted as weakness. It was positioning. Every missed social appearance, every non-response to provocation, every silence became a message. Those paying attention understood this wasn't over. The real story was still unfolding behind the scenes, and Kandi had already taken the lead in controlling what could be seen, what could be said, and what could be inferred. The subtle shifts didn't stop with her. Todd's public behavior, Porsha's carefully curated posts, and the reactions of secondary cast seemed to bend to the unfolding tension. Each move, each non-move, added layers to a story that viewers had initially believed was simple reality TV drama. Patterns emerged. Timelines were reconstructed. Moments once dismissed as coincidence were now evidence in a narrative that refused to be ignored. And as fans debated, analyzed, and dissected, the message became clear. This isn't entertainment anymore. This is exposure. This is a realignment of power, relationships, and influence. Kandi Burruss, once a participant in a reality show, had stepped into the role of investigator, strategist, and silent disruptor, challenging the foundations of what had previously been considered normal, expected, or safe within her personal and professional sphere. The intensity only escalated once the alleged contractor, whatever it truly was, entered the public's imagination. Social media, as expected, exploded. Every fan theory, every observation, every subtle facial expression from past episodes was scrutinized, dissected, and recontextualized. People began uploading side-by-side comparisons of Todd Tucker's glances versus Kandi's expressions, Porsha Williams' gestures versus her previous interviews, creating timelines that read like investigative dossiers. "Look at this pause," one fan wrote under a viral clip. "You can see she knows something they don't want you to notice." Another added, "These smiles? Completely rehearsed. Watch the micro-expressions, total control." Suddenly, the world realized that reality television, as it had been presented, was perhaps not as reality-driven as everyone had believed. behind the scenes. Crew members reportedly started whispering about the level of tension on set. The atmosphere, they said, was palpable. Production meetings became more strategic, focusing less on shooting schedules and more on controlling exposure. Every camera angle, every scripted line, every segment for editing had to be weighed against the possibility of revealing more than intended. It was as if the alleged contract's influence had seeped into the very fabric of the production. Anonymous sources claimed that Kandi, who once appeared passive in the background of arguments, was now meticulously observing, noting inconsistencies, and preparing to leverage every piece of evidence for maximum impact. "She's not playing along anymore," a crew member reportedly said. "She's running the show quietly." Meanwhile, Todd and Porsha's public interactions became increasingly scrutinized. Interviews that were once lighthearted now felt tense, each laugh dissected frame by frame, every pause analyzed. Fans began questioning motives, timing, and intent, turning what was once a casual entertainment story into an ongoing investigation. Social media became a virtual courtroom, with each viewer acting as judge, jury, and analyst simultaneously. Comment sections were flooded with theories, some claiming Kandi's calm was deliberate, some alleging Todd and Porsha were manipulating perception, and some suggesting the entire cast was participating in a subtle, long-term narrative of deception. The intrigue didn't stop there. Leaked screenshots allegedly from private chats between the trio began circulating. The messages were cryptic, but suggestive lines that seemed harmless on their own suddenly took on new meaning in light of Kandi's discovery. Some posts appeared mundane, casual greetings or reminders, but when lined up with past episodes and public appearances, they painted a story of coordination and premeditation. Every subtle word became fuel for speculation. The public's appetite for the scandal was insatiable, and the online ecosystem thrived on breaking down each new detail. Fans started building detailed timelines, highlighting overlaps in filming dates, travel, and personal appearances, as if reconstructing an invisible chessboard that Kandi, Todd, and Porsha had been moving pieces on all along. Public opinion, naturally, was divided. Some insisted that Kandi had discovered a genuine betrayal, applauding her composure and meticulous handling of sensitive material. Others argued the timing was convenient, suggesting a potential ratings ploy, or a carefully orchestrated narrative designed to paint her as the wrong party. Yet regardless of belief, there was one undeniable fact: the story had shifted from entertainment to scrutiny. Fans weren't just watching, they were actively investigating. Every subtle gesture, every word, every pause became a point of discussion. Even people who had never followed the show closely began paying attention, drawn by the layers of intrigue, the whispers of strategy, and the apparent stakes hidden behind polished production. As the narrative intensified, Kandi's positioning became even more evident. Reports suggest she began privately organizing her own collection of evidence screenshots, video snippets, and time-stamped interactions that created a web of patterns no casual observer could ignore. Friends described her as methodical, almost clinical. She wasn't seeking public validation. She was assembling a story, one that didn't rely on sensational outbursts or tearful confessions. Instead, it was built on precision, timing, and insight, qualities that gave her narrative credibility far beyond mere emotion. "She's always been smart," an insider reportedly said, "but now it's like she's playing a long game. Every move calculated, every silence intentional. She's exposing the story without even speaking it aloud." Public reaction grew more intense when supposed leaks from production started circulating. Videos showing brief interactions, once dismissed as mundane, now carried new implications. A glance here, a casual remark there, all pieced together like a jigsaw puzzle revealing hidden motives. Commentary channels exploded with analysis, speculation, and dissection. The story became a layered narrative, one where every participant's behavior was examined under a microscope. Kandi's reactions, already strategic, were being framed as evidence of her intelligence, intuition, and acute awareness of dynamics around her, the alleged contract's influence didn't end with behavior. It was reportedly affecting logistics and appearances as well. Dates of public events, filming schedules, and even social media posts appeared strategically coordinated. Observers began speculating about why certain trips coincided with filming days, why interviews seemed rehearsed, and why certain private messages suggested arrangements not meant for the public eye. It's like watching someone manage an empire in silence, a fan tweeted. Every action calculated, every reaction measured, every secret preserved. Until now, the more people dug, the more patterns emerged, creating an ever-expanding narrative of potential manipulation and concealed agreements. At the same time, the impact on Todd Tucker and Porsha Williams became more pronounced. Observers noted shifts in demeanor, an increasingly careful selection of words and gestures that, though small, carried weight. Whether these were intentional signals to the public or subtle reactions to Kandi's unfolding narrative remained speculative, but they added layers of tension and drama to the story. Experts in public relations and body language began weighing in, analyzing smiles, pauses, and gestures with the intensity of a forensic investigation. Fans consumed every detail eagerly, debating interpretations and offering alternative theories at lightning speed. The intensity of the scandal also sparked supposed anonymous sources to come forward. Claims ranged from inside knowledge of strategic planning to off-camera interactions that hinted at coordination or even manipulation. While none of these sources were verifiable, the very existence of such claims fueled speculation. Every alleged insider added to the narrative complexity, creating an ecosystem of tension and curiosity that kept audiences engaged far beyond the show itself. It became a social experiment, a study of influence, manipulation, and control played out in the public eye. Meanwhile, Kandi's approach remained methodical. She didn't seek confrontation for spectacle. She didn't issue dramatic statements. Instead, her interactions were subtle, almost invisible in their impact. By remaining composed, she forced observers to read between the lines, to analyze, and to question what they were being shown. The result was a shift in power dynamics. For the first time in a long-running reality television storyline, the narrative seemed controlled not by producers, but by the subject at the center of the controversy. Kandi's poise and silent strategy gave her the authority to redefine the narrative without a single public outburst. Public engagement surged to unprecedented levels. Every new piece of information, whether a social media post, an edited scene, or a subtle interaction on camera, sparked waves of analysis. Fans became investigators, piecing together subtle hints, small gestures, and alleged messages to construct a coherent story that producers had never intended to reveal. Conspiracy threads multiplied, timelines expanded, and the story took on a life of its own, moving beyond scripted drama into the realm of perceived reality, even as the public dissected the unfolding events. The emotional undertone remained critical. Sources indicate that Kandi's composure was not just strategic, it was personal. Behind the scenes, she allegedly experienced betrayal, disappointment, and anger, but her approach was careful. By managing emotion and exposure, she maintained control of both her personal integrity and the narrative itself. Every withheld comment, every deliberate silence, every calculated interaction contributed to a growing sense of inevitability. The story was moving toward a revelation, one that the public could see forming but had yet to fully comprehend. As the days passed, subtle shifts continued to accumulate. Todd and Porsha's attempts at controlled appearances increasingly contrasted with Kandi's methodical presence. Fans speculated on motivations, influence, and consequences, debating what was orchestrated versus what was spontaneous. Online forums filled with debates, and every comment, meme, or video clip was examined for hidden meaning. Social media influencers, bloggers, and entertainment pundits joined the discussion, amplifying speculation and ensuring the story remained at the forefront of public attention. In the midst of this storm, Kandi's strategy appeared flawless. By remaining composed, observing, and selectively releasing evidence or reactions, she positioned herself as both the subject and the investigator. The public, hungry for clarity, watched as layers unfolded, connecting past seasons, behind-the-scenes interactions, and subtle gestures into a coherent, if speculative, narrative. The scandal had morphed into a multi-layered story of strategy, deception, and control far beyond the bounds of what casual viewers expected from a reality television episode. By the end of this second phase, the story had expanded far beyond its initial spark. Fans, insiders, and casual observers alike were caught in a web of intrigue, speculation, and analysis. The alleged contract, whether legally binding or purely symbolic, had shifted the perception of every interaction, every gesture, and every word spoken on screen. Kandi Burruss, once a participant in the drama, had become its silent architect, guiding the narrative through careful observation and strategic action. The stage was set for the final act, the fallout, consequences, and public reckoning that would bring all these threads together in a dramatic crescendo that fans would remember long after the cameras stopped rolling. As the narrative unfolded into its final act, the stakes could no longer be ignored. Kandi's meticulous strategy had set the stage for a reckoning that went far beyond personal drama. It was becoming a cultural phenomenon. Suddenly, every move, every glance, and every calculated pause was being interpreted as evidence of a much larger scheme. Commentators on social media weren't just speculating, they were creating timelines, decoding interactions, and presenting expert analyses like seasoned detectives. People who had never cared about reality TV were now hooked, enthralled by what seemed like a hidden layer of intrigue in a world they thought was trivial. The fallout was immediate and widespread. Former allies began distancing themselves, either out of fear, confusion, or self-preservation. Private messages allegedly leaked to gossip accounts suggested that some of Todd and Porsha's closest confidants were growing uneasy, worried that being associated with the unfolding scandal could tarnish their own reputations. The alleged contract had become a symbol of manipulation and secrecy, a lightning rod drawing attention and speculation like never before. Public opinion was fractured, with some praising Kandi's intelligence and composure, and others accusing her of orchestrating a narrative for attention. But one thing was undeniable: the story had captivated the world. Fans and so-called insiders began creating elaborate theories about the implications of the contract. Some claim it revealed hidden financial arrangements, secret privileges, or behind-the-scenes deals that could change the power dynamics entirely. Others speculated that the contract wasn't legally binding at all, but was instead a psychological tool designed to manipulate behavior and perception. Every new leak amplified these claims. An offhand remark in an interview, a fleeting expression in a behind-the-scenes clip, or even a social media post from months prior became critical evidence in the eyes of the public. The lines between fact and speculation blurred, creating a web of intrigue so thick that no casual observer could untangle it. Meanwhile, the public's fascination fed an ever-growing feedback loop. Hashtags related to the scandal trended relentlessly. Memes and reaction videos multiplied exponentially, and fan forums buzzed with debate over every conceivable angle. The internet had effectively transformed into a virtual courtroom, with viewers acting as prosecutors, defense attorneys, and jurors all at once. Every social media post from Kandi, Todd, or Porsha was dissected as potential evidence, and influencers jumped in to provide expert commentary on body language, intent, and hidden meaning. The story had transcended entertainment. It had become a psychological spectacle, a case study in influence, perception, and media manipulation. Kandi, however, remained the calm center amid the chaos. While others scrambled, she maintained an air of quiet control. Sources indicate that she continued to collect, analyze, and document interactions in a manner reminiscent of a seasoned investigator. Every reaction, every subtle gesture, and every statement made by Todd and Porsha was cataloged and scrutinized, creating a detailed map of influence and intention. Unlike the public and media frenzy, Kandi's approach wasn't about sensationalism, it was about constructing a narrative with precision, one that revealed truth through careful observation rather than emotional outbursts. Legal experts and entertainment analysts began weighing in as well, offering their interpretations of what the alleged contract could mean. Speculative reports suggested potential implications for custody arrangements, financial obligations, and contractual rights related to reality TV appearances. Even though the contract's authenticity remained unverified, its mere existence fueled widespread debate, and mainstream news outlets began covering the story as if it were a legitimate crisis. The narrative's reach had moved beyond fan forums and social media platforms, infiltrating conversations in living rooms, workplaces, and boardrooms alike. The psychological toll on the parties involved was evident. Todd and Porsha reportedly displayed increasingly guarded behavior, their every interaction scrutinized under the microscope of public attention. Anonymous sources claimed that the alleged contract had created tension not only between them and Kandi, but within their own professional and personal circles. Friends described a climate of anxiety, suspicion, and careful self-monitoring, as if every word spoken could ignite another wave of speculation. The social dynamics were shifting rapidly, and the delicate balance of power had tilted unmistakably toward Kandi, whose silence and strategic composure gave her an edge over the increasingly reactive duo. Meanwhile, the public frenzy continued to grow. Discussions online evolved from simple speculation to elaborate conspiracies involving hidden motives, orchestrated appearances, and potential long-term consequences. Every viewer seemed to have a theory, and each theory was shared, dissected, and expanded upon at lightning speed. In this digital ecosystem, the scandal became self-perpetuating. Every reaction from Kandi, Todd, or Porsha created new material for analysis, while every new post, comment, or rumor fed the insatiable appetite of a curious, engaged audience. The story was alive, constantly evolving, and no single narrative could contain it. As the tension mounted, Kandi's approach became even more fascinating. She reportedly began to engage selectively, choosing moments to respond, clarify, or remain silent. These carefully calculated interactions sent ripples through the fan base, reinforcing her position as both observer and participant in the unfolding drama. By exercising control over her responses, she dictated the pace and tone of the narrative, forcing observers to pay attention to subtleties and read between the lines. Her strategy transformed what could have been a simple personal conflict into an intricate public spectacle, one that blurred the line between reality and orchestrated narrative. Public sentiment remained polarized. Some hailed Kandi as a model of poise and intelligence, using her approach as a masterclass in navigating betrayal and controversy. Others remained skeptical, arguing that her actions were calculated for public consumption, carefully engineered to generate attention and sympathy. Regardless of perspective, the story's impact was undeniable. It had infiltrated multiple layers of media, social conversation, and pop culture discourse, turning what might have been a fleeting scandal into an enduring cultural talking point. The implications extended beyond the immediate parties involved. Industry insiders speculated about potential ramifications for the reality TV landscape as a whole. If Kandi's alleged discoveries and strategic handling of the situation were to be emulated, it could shift power dynamics across the genre, empowering participants to reclaim narrative control from producers and networks. The alleged contract, whether symbolic or legally binding, had catalyzed a conversation about trust, transparency, and power that transcended the boundaries of entertainment, resonating with audiences who increasingly questioned what they were being shown. By now, the story had reached a crescendo. Every social media post, interview snippet, and fan discussion fed into a cycle of anticipation and revelation. Viewers were no longer passive consumers, they were active participants in a story that blurred the lines between reality, speculation, and performance. Each revelation prompted new questions. How deep did the alleged arrangements go? What were the motivations behind every gesture and decision? Could Kandi truly have anticipated every move, or was there a broader, unseen network of influence at play? Ultimately, the alleged contract became more than just a piece of paper. It symbolized a narrative shift. Kandi's strategic silence, precise observation, and deliberate timing turned a personal revelation into a spectacle with global reach. Todd and Porsha's reactions, once casual, were now subject to intense scrutiny, and every action carried amplified significance. The unfolding events demonstrated how carefully curated behavior, combined with public fascination, could create a story that transcended individual lives, becoming a shared cultural experience filled with drama, speculation, and intrigue. As the story approached its climax, it was clear that the ripple effects would be long-lasting. Social media had transformed into a continuous investigation. Influencers amplified every perceived detail, and public opinion remained divided yet intensely engaged. Kandi's composure and strategic maneuvering elevated her narrative above simple scandal, positioning her as both protagonist and investigator, revealing a masterclass in handling controversy while maintaining control over the storyline. And as the world watched, speculated, and debated, one fact remained certain. What began as a shocking discovery had grown into a multifaceted saga, combining suspense, strategy, and drama in a way that reality television had rarely seen. The story was far from over, but the stage had been set. The players had been revealed, and the audience was captivated, eagerly awaiting every next move, every subtle gesture, and every calculated pause that might finally bring the drama to its inevitable, explosive conclusion. So, what does this all mean? Was Kandi really blindsided? Or was this the play she'd been setting up all along? Could Todd and Porsha have anticipated that every move, every secret, would be exposed to the world? And here's the million-dollar question: how much of this is really reality, and how much is carefully orchestrated for maximum drama? Think about it. In a world where every glance can be interpreted, every message can be leaked, and every action amplified by millions of eyes online, can anyone truly have a private life anymore? The fallout isn't just personal, it's cultural. Fans are analyzing, debating, and dissecting every interaction like it's a major court case. Social media is exploding, theories are spreading like wildfire, and every single update has the power to change the narrative completely. And we haven't even scratched the surface of what could come next. Will there be reconciliations? Legal battles? New alliances? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain: the story isn't over, and the drama will only escalate. Now, we want to hear from you. What's your take on this explosive revelation? Do you think Kandi saw the contract by accident, or was it all part of a master plan? Could Todd and Porsha's secrets go even deeper than anyone realizes? Drop your theories, reactions, and wild guesses in the comments below. We're watching, analyzing, and reacting to every single one. And of course, if you want more breaking truths, behind-the-scenes secrets, and viral scandals exposed before anyone else, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You don't want to miss the next bombshell, because when stories like this unfold, the truth is stranger, darker, and juicier than fiction. Stay tuned, stay curious, and always question what you think you know. Always question what you think you know.